So we're here with Ms. Rebecca Kimbrell, United States Consul to Lyon, and the issue you just discussed is gender equality. So my first question is, so you've traveled extensively, and you've worked in a number of different countries, such as I've read Ukraine, Jamaica, and Turkey, which you actually used in the committee. And so what has been your experience in terms of your work for that?
For gender equality?
I mean, for gender equality and also living in different countries and...
It's fascinating. I love my job, as I mentioned this morning, and I just realized today is my 15th anniversary as a U.S. diplomat, and it's been an amazing experience. I'm from Alabama. I was born in Alabama but grew up in Tennessee, so many of my family members have never traveled outside the U.S., living, working abroad. You really, you expand your understanding of the world, your viewpoint of the world, and not only do you leave your influence on those places where you live, but you take back this broadened perspective to the United States that you hope you can use to make it a better place as well. I chose gender equality as the topic I wanted to discuss because it's a topic that's so important to me. Not only in terms of violence against women, which is still a problem even in the United States, we're still having issues with it, but pay disparity and the ability to get jobs and reach the the top levels of a woman's career and child care and all these types of things. There are so many issues out there that we need to deal with as a society, as a world, and I think that the United States doesn't have it all right, nor do a lot of the Western countries, but my experiences working overseas, I've seen where some countries do it better. I can take those experiences back to the U.S. I can also promote U.S. values abroad, and so it's a subject that's very important to me.
So, for example, for people who are interested in politics or diplomacy, what is your typical day of work?
I don't have a typical day, actually. It's and that's one of the things that makes it truly interesting. You don't have a typical year either. One thing you do is you always know where you were a certain year because you divide your life by your postings. And so I remember where I was every 2 to 3 years because that's when you move, which is interesting. But every day, like today, I'm here. Next week, I'll be giving a speech about voting rights at the law school at the Catholic University. I'll be going out to Grenoble, which is part of my region. I some days stay in and try to write up everything that I've done that week. I take calls, the ambassador will come, I'm delivering messages that are sent from Washington that they've asked me to deliver to Interpol or to the government here, having lunch with business leaders or politicians or other community leaders around my region, traveling. I'm going to all the New Year's receptions that have been happening lately. You know, it's just a constant change, and sometimes it is a little overwhelming, especially being the only American in Lyon right now. It all falls on me, but there's never a dull moment.
What is your opinion on the importance of conferences such as this, ILYMUN, and where high school students are organized and run the show, as we can see. You think that conferences such as this could influence the reputation of Lyon?
Absolutely. I have, and I mean this sincerely, I have been incredibly impressed already by what I've seen. You guys have pulled off something quite impressive here. The students are phenomenal. 2 of our youth ambassadors actually are involved with this. The MC is one of our youth ambassadors who just went to Washington and came back. So you guys are way ahead of where I was, I think, at your age. And think to have you already thinking about these issues and researching these issues, I think that one of my regrets is that I didn't start a little sooner. I mean, I started as a chemistry major in college, so I had to switch majors, but
Yeah, because it said on your website you studied international relations.
I did. I political
okay.
science and international relations, but my first year was chemistry, and then I thought, wow, I don't want to sit in the lab for the rest of my life. But I wish that I had started thinking about international travel and all those things and these types of issues earlier. And the fact that this is in Lyon is incredibly impressive. I can't wait to put it up on my website as well, because I feel incredibly lucky that it's in my region and I get to participate versus it being in Paris where someone else gets to participate. So.
Right. And so as you said, you're a woman in a very important position politically and diplomatically. And do you feel like more women are rising to high-ranking posts in politics and, like, I mean, as politicians and diplomats around the world? I mean, is that a trend, maybe?
Yes and no. I think in the State Department we're seeing an increase in the number of female ambassadors, in the number of female assistant secretaries and women who are in higher ranking positions. Mm-hmm. We've had 3 female secretaries of state, Secretary Albright, Secretary Rice, and then Secretary Clinton. Mm. At the same time, at least in the United States, you know, we're underrepresented in Senate and Congress, in my opinion. In the private sector, it's still, if you look at the percentages based on the percentage of the population that is women, you don't have an equal or as much of a representation as we should. And I think I see that even in Western countries as well. In France, I've noticed that it's a similar type of thing. I'm generally in a room with mostly men, and mostly older men when I go to meetings. And it's no criticism, I just think that we're doing great, but we still have a long way to go.
So moving on to teenagers and young adults, do you feel like maybe we are involved enough in politics nowadays, and maybe could we do more? Mm-hmm. Or
I'm probably a little biased because the teenagers that I interact with are teenagers who are involved in politics. Right. Because so my sample size is very limited, and so yes, you guys are doing a great job. The one thing that I will say, and I say this when I go and speak at high schools and colleges and everything, is I think I would like to see more face-to-face and discussions than time on social media. I think that, as someone mentioned, with the rise of fake news and blogs and a move from traditional journalism, it's easy to spread information that isn't entirely accurate. And so, especially for younger generations who get all of their news, who get all of their information online, who don't read newspapers, that's a little dangerous. And so what I encourage people of your generation to do is really to check your sources. You know, if you read something and it sounds outrageous, try to find it in a more mainstream, from a more mainstream source. And if you can't, if it's just from that one source, just really question before you, you pass it along as well. Because, and also support your newspapers, support traditional journalism, because it's so important right now, not just in the United States, but also in France, here, you know, in developing countries. Like, I've worked in countries where journalists were in danger at certain times, and you really appreciate the freedom of the press when you deal with things like that, and you take them for granted, you realize. And so we really need to value and protect that freedom of the press.
how is your activity linked to the issue you've just discussed?
The press?
No, the gender equality.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Gender equality, the press and gender equality, or my activity in gender equality?
No, like your activity in gender equality.
Okay, so what I do
Yes.
here? I do a little bit of everything. When I do I do a lot of programs with youth, because the United States believes that working with youth, working with students is fundamentally important. Exchange programs, again, that broadening the horizons, broadening viewpoints. But for me, I want to ensure that we're sending as many qualified women, as young women, as we are qualified young men. I want to make sure that some of the programs that I'm promoting are gender equality programs. You have to consciously think about what you're doing. Sports programs, when we do sports diplomacy, are we doing sports diplomacy for boys and girls? Yeah. Everything, it's a conscious decision-making process. When interns apply, are you looking at female interns? Everything, you just have to think about it. But it's not just women and men. I mean, it's all, it's diversity in all aspects. It's not just women and men. It's ethnic minorities. It's sexual minorities as well. We're dealing with those issues in the United States right now. You have to take all of those things into consideration and remember to keep an open mind.
You kind of answered this now, but do you feel like gender equality, the question of gender equality, is being talked about enough? I mean, what's your impression of, the youth, sort of what we think about gender equality and how we talk about it in committees such as these, for example?
I do. I really do. I think that, especially among your generation, it is a topic, not just gender equality, but equality equality across the board. I think is a topic that you're all very, very cognizant of and focused on. It's one that certainly takes a lot of airtime in the United States, obviously, but for good reason. You've seen that there's still some deep-seated issues in the United States in terms of differences between communities, but we're talking about it, and that's what you can't avoid it. You have to talk about it, and I think that's happening here as well, that people are talking about it, people are interested in it, and especially your generation is definitely meeting it head on, more so than my generation ever did.
I just wanted to know if, is this your first ILYMUN conference?
Yes.
Okay, so probably will return.
Yes. I'd love to. Got 2 more. I will be here for 3 years, and so you can have me 2 more times.
Are you moving? Do you know where you're moving after that?
No, we will. My husband's a diplomat as well. He is a diplomatic security agent. So within the State Department, they have the Foreign Service generalist, which is what I am. They have Foreign Service specialists as well, but then we also have diplomatic security, who are the federal agents, the security personnel. They make sure our embassies are safe, and then when they're domestic, they investigate crimes that have to do with document fraud, visa fraud. They protect all of our dignitaries that come to the UN, for example. They're responsible for all that. They protect the Secretary of State, all that. So he is here as he's seconded to Interpol for 3 years. And so we have to find jobs together, and that list will come out in a couple more years. So we've got a couple of years to just kind of relax and not worry about it, and then we'll start looking for a job together again.